few minutes, I'll be asking Rob Ford from Network Rail to give a short overview of the projects and activities which his accelerated innovation team deliver within Network Rail, and how these horizon scan activities which we undertake support them in those goals. Before I do that, I'll give a short, brief few words around who the connected places are, and then a short overview of how this session is intended to run. So I guess probably a lot of you are familiar with the catapults already, but I'll just, for the sake of completeness, give a very brief overview of who they are and what they do. So the catapults are neutral, not-for-profit organisations created by Innovate UK, and their aim is to foster innovation and to promote productivity and economic growth within the UK. And I'll talk briefly about how we do this in a second. There are 9 catapult organisations which form a network of world-leading technology centres. And they're organised around specific areas of UK strength. So, for example, high-value manufacturing, digital offshore renewables, satellite applications, and of course, connected places. The Connected Places Catapult itself was formed in April 2019, merging together the former Transport Systems Catapult and the Future Cities Catapult. So, our focus is clearly still quite focused towards mobility and transport related activities. In terms of how we kind of go about this, the catapult itself is kind of made up of experts in the field coming from industry, and people who understand the technologies that are at the core of what the Connected Places aims to do. We have a number of innovation partners that we work with as well, so Network Rail being the obvious one, but also HS2, Department for Transport. And we rely on these to kind of work hand in hand to help shape demand and mature the market in innovative technologies. We have a number of academic partners, so we have a strong academic alliance. So with a number of the key universities to try and help drive innovation from academia into industry. And we also have a very strong SME network where we have a database of over 1,500 SMEs that we work with, to try and help extract the innovation and the technologies that they are developing and help accelerate their commercialization. In terms of kind of how we go about these activities, I guess there's kind of 3 core ways we go about doing this. So we try to connect the market. So this is facilitating high value engagement, showcasing British business and research capabilities. We aim to try and spark new possibilities, so generate, for example, market intelligence, a lot of thought leadership work, developing bespoke business cases, business analysis and activities around that. And then really try to accelerate the commercialization of innovation. So this could be through initiating opportunities for innovators, supporting use of test beds, demonstrators, and really helping to try and accelerate the development of innovation through to basically commercial opportunities. Speaking a bit specifically now about one program that we do under which this particular project fits. We have a project where we support Network Rail to identify where innovation may help to address some of the challenges which they're facing. So this program is called the Innovation Factory. Broadly speaking, within this program, once a challenge or a business need is identified, there might be a number of ways in which we might work together with Network Rail to help find innovative solutions to whatever their business needs are. So it could be that we engage with industry and accelerate, or industry and academia through our networks to kind of try and find new innovative solutions to the challenges identified. We can help kind of foster creativity to find new ideas or solutions. That could be through events such as hackathons. We can provide a neutral view on potential technologies, or we could kind of support in accelerating the deployment of innovative ideas or technologies. So that could be through technical support to an SME. It could be through supporting demonstrator projects, or assisting with different technology procurement routes to kind of accelerate getting those technologies into market. We've now run a number of these horizon scanning activities with Network Rail, and really what we're looking to try and do is identify solutions to the challenges the Network Rail have. So generally, we run these projects in a reasonably standard way in which we initially work with Network Rail to understand the nature of the challenge they have to capture the essential attributes that any solution would need to encapsulate, and ultimately turn that into a challenge statement document, which hopefully you will have all have read by now. The requirement here is not to state exactly what the solution needs to look like, but to try and capture what the needs or the challenge itself is, and try and open the possibility to new and innovative ways to address that challenge. So once that challenge is identified, we push it out to industry and invite organisations such as yourself to offer potential approaches or technologies which you believe will deliver a solution to the challenge. In parallel with that activity, we would also conduct our own horizon scanning activity to identify if there are solutions or technologies in development in other industries which might have the potential to cross over into the rail application. And at the culmination of these two parallel streams, we essentially review and assess all the proposed solutions and innovative ideas and present that back as a kind of end report to Network Rail, from which Network Rail will then decide how they wish to progress with essentially what technology or innovation ideas have been identified through this activity. So coming to today's event specifically, so the purpose of today's webinar is to offer you an opportunity to essentially reinforce your understanding of the challenge, the need, and to clarify any questions that you might have around either what the challenge is or what the process is for submitting an idea, or requesting any more specific requirements you might have around what the technology might need to be able to do. Obviously, it's slightly more tricky being conducted virtually, but the intention of this is to be, as best we can, a two-way engagement event. So please feel free to ask as many questions as you need during the session. I think how we'll probably run it is if you put your questions into the Q&A panel within the meeting, then we'll try and work through those questions towards the end of the webinar. So in terms of the outline for today's session, so I've just given a brief overview of kind of who we are and what today is about. In a few seconds, I'll ask Rob Ford to briefly explain the remit of his accelerated innovation team. Following that, John Nolan, also for Network Rail, will give some background information to this challenge statement specifically and try and expand on what the challenge is and what sort of technologies or solutions are being looked for. Once he's done that, there'll then be an open question and answer session. So if you have particular questions you want to address on this challenge statement, then that'll be your opportunity to get clarifications needed. As I say, the process we'll use for that is if you can put your questions into the Q&A panel, then we'll sort of work through those questions one at a time towards the end of the session. We had it originally intended to do an elevator pitch session, but unfortunately the demand for that was kind of much higher than we had anticipated. So we wouldn't have been able to accommodate all the requests to speak within the time frame we've got. So in order to ensure that the process remains kind of as open and as fair as it can, and no one is in any way disadvantaged, we've proposed to invite you all to submit a short pitch electronically outside of the event. So you should have received an email and instructions for how to do that. But like I say, we feel that's probably the fairest way to make sure that nobody is in any way disadvantaged by not being able to pitch. So presentations from our side will probably take a little bit over half an hour. So the remaining time for this session will be available for Q&A. It might be that we don't need the full 2 hours, but we'll have as much time as needed, up to 2 hours, to be able to answer any questions that you have. Okay, so that's it from my side. I hope today will be useful and productive for everyone. I now invite Rob to speak a little bit about the Accelerated Innovation team.
Great. Thanks for that, Stuart. Hopefully you can all see my screen. So the Accelerated Innovation Programme is the programme I look after. It's part of Network Rail's wider R&D portfolio. So in CP6, which is 5-year funding control periods that Network Rail get funded in, which started last April, so April 2019, Network Rail were awarded £245 million of direct funding to use to fund an R&D portfolio. The regulator agreed we could do this as long as we also found £112 million worth of third-party funding. That gave us the full pot of 357. Originally, that was broken down into 6 programs of work, all focused around different asset areas, plus Shift to Rail. Shift to Rail is a big European program that Network Rail are one of the founding members of, which is worth several hundred million euros. About 9 months into the program, we met with our chief executive, and he challenged us quite hard. He liked the fact that we had a really robust program focused on strategic challenges, but he wanted to know where was our fast tactical program that was taking technology from other industries or established technologies that were already in operation across European railways and bringing them into the business. And that's where the Accelerated Innovation Program came from. The goals of the portfolio are to look at improving asset sustainability, the availability of the network, safety, and the passenger experience. We work with multiple partners across academia and industry, including Connected Places Catapult, which we're really excited about working with. The program we're delivering with them on the Innovation Factory, at the heart of it is really to open up the supply chain more. There's lots of great ideas out there that are already in use, high technology readiness level, that we could utilise as part of my program. We really want to find those solutions. So we flipped the traditional R&D approach on its head, rather than taking a kind of long-term view on how technology is developing. We look at the market now to see where there are opportunities to grow things from small scale. So working with people like John Nolan. So John works in the region, leading on our BIM. He'll tell you a bit more about that later. But we'll work predominantly with him to create a solution that works for him and his region, and then grow that across the business if it works. Or if it doesn't work, we will fail it fast and we won't have spent a lot of time and effort. But the whole thing about the program is moving fastly. So getting a contract in place quickly and then building the capability in an iterative way, getting to an MVP, and then growing additional functionality based on user cases and business cases into that. So the main priorities are looking at faster time to solution, earlier return on investment. So one of the things we don't do fantastically in the industry is get a return on investment early enough. We take a very long time to deliver the end of a project sometimes. With my program, we're taking more of an agile approach, so delivering something early that can give benefit to the end users, and then building on that and making sure that the benefits still stack up to continue and getting to a point where we've maxed out those benefits. Building the right solutions. So again, a lot of the time we bring a stakeholder in at the beginning, we work with them quite aggressively for a short period of time, they then disappear and come back at the end of the project, which might be 12, 18 months later. And actually what they get isn't what they expected. Part of this program is around involving that end user. So John will be involved every 2 weeks, seeing the progress of the project, prioritising what the next features and functionality that we want to put in are delivered, to make sure that actually that end product meets John's requirements. And that gives us constant user feedback. And hopefully that builds to better quality. And in the last 9 months, we've had some fantastic projects that have done that. They've really delivered at the heart of it exactly what the customer wanted, which is the main priority in the program. So I said I wouldn't waste much time to the guys, so I'll hand over to John now. Thanks.
Hi everyone. Yes, we go. Hi, yes, I'm John Nolan. I'm the program manager BIM for Network Rail Wales and Western Region Capital Delivery. Just want to say a big welcome to everyone who's attended and who's online. Our region has had the benefit of major programs in the last 10 years, Crossrail and Network Works and the Greater West program. And as a byproduct of these and to enable lean design and construction, we developed a virtual railway model from Paddington to Cardiff. we are working weekly or monthly on new projects, and we're looking at expanding that model across the region. We also have other base data and different types of server requirements that come in. So mass production of point cloud from Royal trains, aerial surveys to build a hybrid model. And part of this initiative is to see how we can visualize and looking at this aspect. So we do look at new technology, and we're looking to start from the ground up to build a more efficient way of working, and a way that our project teams and our stakeholders, and basically anyone who's working on the railway, can experience a more immersive solution and experience and get better use of the information that we have produced, whether it's our route colleagues or our people in part of a region, how we visualize it, how we can check information and things like that. So the challenge statement is to develop an immersive reality suite that holds all Network Rail's regional holistic models, including live reporting from site and the ability to walk around the street, to look at VR, virtual reality railway, and to make key decisions and key reviews. If you've read the challenge statement, and hopefully everyone has, it goes into an awful lot more detail there on what we want to do. Our aspirations, well, we do need a digital transformation. We started that process on screen. We do reviews in certain ways, and we do work in the virtual world. But part of our aspiration is to transform this way of working into an immersive virtual railway for design integration, for real-time reporting from site, for even for emergency, and using new technologies that our route colleagues are bringing in. For example, the ability to use drones and combine that with real life reporting as well. A user or the users should be able to interact with the objects in the virtual environment. So immersion does focus attention, and we found that in our way, but that's from using the computer screen. It makes the user think, the use of instinct, and to think and analyze and digest data. And that's really the core of what we want to do, is we want people to be able to visualize our stations, our track, our projects, our assets, our video feeds, and be able to make more informed decisions about what we need to do, whether it's a reactive situation or whether it's a project lifecycle. And the key to that is the information is displayed with faster cognitive processing and viewing and understanding multi-dimensional data, and remove bottlenecks. And if you've worked on railway projects, there are bottlenecks in there, and part of our Putting Passengers First program is to try and make better decisions and more informed decisions, which means that our projects and our assets are managed better, which means the experience for the end user who uses our infrastructure is an awful lot better and more efficient. What we currently do, so we have a virtual railway. Basically, we use it for stakeholder engagement, so that could be for early adoption, for optioneering. You might have 25, 30 options on particular projects at the very early stage, but we find that when you put them into the model and you produce a 3D visualization, you can make more informed decisions about what option you want. For example, if you have footsteps over a bridge, or you're doing a new ramp on a station, what's the impact that's going to have on the local residents? So using this technology and with stakeholder engagement, we would be able to look at someone's front door, look at someone's window, see what impact our infrastructure is going to have, or our future infrastructure is going to have. Signal sighting we do as well, clash detection, site walkouts, live design reviews. It's kind of like an end-to-end process. So from stakeholder engagement for early enhancement, through a project lifecycle with clash detection, design reviews, to an output being driver learning videos, it really is cradle to grave what we do with our virtual railway. To do that, we use 3D and 4D modeling techniques, site augmentation for equipment installation. We are investigating drone surveys as a region with our colleagues as well, and we have real-time site reporting initiatives in place as well. The assets that require our virtual model that we use to build it, well, we have virtual track, signaling, overhead line equipment, line side civils, mechanical and electrical utilities, ballast track, and I'll give you a preview shortly on what that is. But it just shows how, from an integration point of view and for signal sighting, how we use this information, which is derived from survey capture, and how we bring it into our model. And this is what we would propose in this project, to be able to visualize in a virtual and an immersive way. The information that we use. So we have a variety of ways of capturing data. We have an air ops team to do aerial surveys, and that would be aerial imagery, also point cloud scans. We have working in partnership with some of our suppliers. We have train-borne surveys as well, and that gives us a very highly accurate point cloud model, as you can see here, with the railway and the tracks and all the station infrastructure. We do in-cab videos, we do topographical survey, we have aerial imagery, and part of the challenges is how do we incorporate this information so we can have a hybrid model. So, for example, if we have a proposed station and we have a scan, how can we bring the scan in, and how can we have our senior leadership teams visualize that in an immersive suite, either if it's immersive in an office environment or it's virtual reality? How can we turn on and off these different types of base data that complements the existing information that we already have? What do we produce? Here's a preview of what we do in the process to get there. So we have aerial, we have point cloud information, we have surveys, we have highly accurate information and techniques to produce these. And from that, we produce a virtual railway, basically. So we use CAD to do this. We use MicroStation as kind of the main tool that we use to do these, because that gives us that breadth of dimension. But from that, we produce signal sighting, clash detection, design reviews, and we model every asset. And the reason why we do this is because when we get a design in, we want to make sure the design is in the right place. It doesn't conflict any buried services or any drainage. And for any future enhancement schemes, we can identify any clashes with bridges or how they affect our signal with structures in the way of our signaling. So that's our kind of our BIM tool set, and that's this is where we are at the moment. But it's computer based, it's not virtual based, it's not immersive. We can't walk around it. A user can use like CAD software to walk around, but we want to make this available to everyone to use and have that functionality that you are actually selling on this platform, and you can see what impact it's going to have on the railway. I know Crossrail have done an awful lot of work in this field for MTR, have for training purposes and things like that. Why do we do it? Well, talking around virtual models helps construction people identify and reduce risk and planning. When we have a model of the site environment, it does help plan logistics, and part of this would be logistics. How would plan to arrive on site? Do we know the space available? Do we know turning distances? Can we walk around that? Can we walk around a turning distance to ascertain whether it's enough place there? Can we even sit in a virtual cab of a truck and work out in advance how we're going to get into those turning circles? The use of virtual models for clash detection, which is very powerful, especially when we have a railway with an awful lot of buried services going back like 100 plus years, 150 years. What's underground? If we have these modeled as well, and we have information that shows where they are, how can we make that work? Adding the timeline, which is 4D, which is the model plus 4D plus the P6 plan, they're animating sequences. And part of that is we're doing it at the moment, but how do we sit there and actually see it being built? So we can look at it, we can create an animation, and it's a flat screen animation, but can we sit in that environment and can we see the foundations being installed? Can we see the bridge being constructed? Can we see the railway being removed from real-time spec, or the impact it's going to have on the neighbourhood, and what the program of works would look like there? And of course, collaborative reviews between clients and designers and constructors. That's key for lean engineering and construction. And if we work together in this environment, we should get right first time construction, because we've mitigate any issues or any clashes that might have happened on site with the right information that's there as well. What we want to develop, well, we would like to develop and work with you guys on a multi-user immersive visualization facility. So basically, like a VR, an immersive suite. I'm not going to mention more about that. It's part of Q&A, but that's part of the challenge. Is how do we build this suite? How does it work? How does it interact? Is it got touchscreen capability? Can we use gloves? Can we take measurements? Things like that as well. That is to facilitate face-to-face discussions with our senior teams and stakeholders and the public, because the public's key to what we want to do. And if we can invite the public in to have that immersive capability, it'll help get approval in a shorter time scale. Immersive headset integration, where people are working from home these days an awful lot, especially in the current climate. This needs to be part of it as well. If we have the headset integration, which can be used with kind of the same functionality, that gives us that breadth of scope, especially when it comes to people traveling long distances. If we can have virtual meetings, people can be in there, whether it's Glasgow, London, Swindon, Paddington, they can take part in that immersive reality and get the benefits from that as well. Smart device integration within our systems. So we have developed systems, we have developed real-time on-site reporting, we have live review processes, and how would this kind of technology feed into this, or what would we need to do to achieve that? Because as a project, if I'm looking at a design review and I have field engineers on site and they can give me real-time reports, how is that visualized on screen? But then separately, if we have drones on site and we have live feeds that are fed back into the immersive suite or the VR suite, how does that integrate with the railway and people on site as well? So for accident investigation, if we have drones, and I know we are looking at some of our colleagues are looking at line of sight, no line of sight drones as well, and that technology. How do we feed that capability in, and how do we have our people on site, our people on the air, feed back into the team to do accident investigation or any kind of issue where it could be floods or anything that might stop the trains from moving as well. So that's key. What's the ambitions? So integration with our BIM systems, basically. We have different systems that are there. We have a common data environment. We have a BIM strategy. We have employer requirements as well that comes to this. Not to tie anything down with that, but this is an open conversation, and we need to see what you guys can bring to help integrate in there as well. We need to be able to integrate 360 video feeds if we get it from drone footage for trespass or tease, accident, emergency, and basically any access, any kind of drone activity we have. We can explore the live feed from that as well. 2D video feeds, how's that fed in as well, and how's that built in to our immersive reality suite? And always, of course, the backbone on this would be the 3D assets and the virtual model. So if we're looking at a virtual model, how do we see the different data sets that are fed in? How do we interact with them, and how can we make more informed decisions? Version control is key. So how do we build that into it as well? And of course, definitely we need to have security in place for end-to-end encryption. So we have a more secure, stable environment for our people. And we need to think outside the box, and that's totally welcome. Any new initiatives, any way people have worked beforehand. If you haven't worked in the railway environment, what can that bring to us to get us better benefits at the end of the day? The benefits as themselves mean smooth navigation around the virtual model for any member of the team, whether you're in an immersive suite or whether you're in VR headsets, visualization tools for hazard identification, or even identifying any clashes. So if we are in this immersive environment and you do identify that a foundation or a pile or some asset that we're installing does have an impact on another asset, we need a way to visualize it, identify it, and more or less report it back. All project teams can walk around the virtual model safely, and that's key for Network Rail. Safety is paramount. If we can work in this environment, have our people working on the immersive world and the VR world, it means that we don't have as many people out on site, which means people are safe, and that's key to what we do. Reduction in technical queries, reduction in people asking for more information. So basically, if we have our hybrid model of our surveys, our model, real-time reporting, and our site-based functionality as well, that means that we can be more informed of where we are. We can answer questions, but also our supply chain can answer more questions, so they're more informed, which means a reduction in program time as well. Collating issues in interactive forms. These can be assigned and tracked to users. And data analytics, so the ability to track comments and integrate with the data within the model. So if we have these feeds coming in, how do we analyze them? What is the reporting? If we have forms coming in, do we have any kind of functionality that says what is open, what many forms are open, what's closed, and things like that? And we visualize that as part of the aspect as well. And whether you can touch screen or touch in the virtual world is part and parcel, I guess. The technical details. Well, we want to enable multi-geographical dispersed users to access and participate in reviews and collaboration. So basically, what we want is we want our project teams, we want our senior teams, we want people who are in an office environment to use this technology, but to more or less on headsets, and even when it comes to our PCs, how do we walk around models? So if we have one of the byproducts would be, if we have someone who hasn't got a headset, they can walk around a model and visualize what they need to see. They can check the clashes. They can be more responsive. And by doing that, it means that our response and our program time accelerates, because we're more informed of the issues as part of the design, or the issues as part of our assets, and where they are and geolocated. So we're more informed, which means that we're better people at working on, and more intelligent how we work using these data sets. We need to be able to import the following file formats. So it is a CAD model, but it's a virtual CAD model. It's a virtual visual CAD model. It has prescribed imagery attached already. There's formats like we use DGN, but we're able to explore and talk about IFC, OBJ and FBX, which are different formats. How does that work? How does it interact? But basically, we can't prescribe how we want things produced, but we can prescribe how we need it delivered. But what is the best way of working, and how do we get all this information we have and bring it into that immersive world? We have LiDAR, which is aerial point clouds, and train-based point clouds as well. We have imagery files, and briefly, the user, just as a catch-up, should be able to teleport or navigate freely around the BIM model in the virtual environment, use access and control, position or reposition themselves, adjust and add basic dimensions. And I think that's a key thing, because it's all good looking at a virtual model and looking at the hybrid information that we've built in there, but can we check the dimension from a railway, from the edge of a platform to a railway edge? Can we check the distance between two overhead line masts, or things like that? We need to have that kind of measurement tool in there. What's the coordinate system? If we click on it, what's the coordinate system of that particular asset, and does it conform with what we have on our paperwork, basically? Add basic notes and sketches. So if we are immersive, we should have ability to, like, not to use the whiteboard marker concept, but it should be a digital type that real time it saves it. We can overlay it on the model. It can come through the model as well as comments. How does that work? And how to import and export 3D assets. So that would be your hybrid model. It would be your virtual railway. It'd be any base data we have that could be geographically in the same area. How we turn on and off different aspects, so we can approach the review an awful lot more easier by turning on and off the different aspects, rather than have a full clouded environment there as well. Just a quick last overview of the work we're doing on the virtual railway. And just to re-elaborate on it, we as part of this, whoever comes through and we start working with, we will make a section that's available, and we will work with them more or less as Rob described in the agile way, which is I'm new to the agile process, but it is, for the last 6 months, been using it. It is brilliant way of working, and we will work and try and incorporate what we've done and how to feed it into whatever the proposals are to get the best product. Because what's good for Wales and Western Region, I believe, is good for Network Rail as a whole as well. And that's it from me.
Okay, thanks, John. There's some unanswered questions. We've been seeing questions come in throughout the presentation, so thank you, everybody. There's a question from Alex LB, which was at the beginning. Alex can be unmuted.
Hi there, yes.
Yep, go on, sorry.
Yeah, sorry, I did. Right, so there's, I had, I think, 2 or 3 questions. One was, apart from a centralized platform for managing data and the visualization, are there any opportunities for data creators, i.e. generating new hardware and or software outside this? So that relates to a technology that we have, which stitches together high resolution LiDAR and 360-degree video to give you essentially a live reality feed, volumetric video. So what you're looking for, it seems like, is basically a big database / game engine, and obviously that's going to appeal to companies who are capable of doing that. But there are lots of other companies who can feed their data into that, and far more companies who are working with sensors and originating data that might be incorporated. So the question is really, is there opportunity for them?
Yeah, definitely. The video and the previews that I demonstrated, they were all manually created by a team of people who used the base data, the underlying survey information to produce a virtual railway, and it was a manual process to create them. So definitely, if there's any efficiencies in improving and automating that process, it's definitely welcome.
Okay, and the second question I had was, I think about halfway through you listed some of the potential inputs, and it pointed out 360-degree video. I just wanted to get clarification on whether that meant videos from multiple sources to give a cohesive image of a scene, or did you mean panoramic video? Because those are two very different things.
I guess it's panoramic video, but it's from different data sets. So when the term 360 live feed would be a drone equipped with a 360 cameras to give that panoramic view from aerial view, because we need that kind of visualization coming through. But yeah, it's something we can explore and look at in greater detail, and the terminology can be examined as well. But it needs to, for drones, or even for guys on site, we have 360 cameras from legacy projects. How are they integrated, and how is the information transformed onto the immersive suite, which could be 180 a visualization, it could be a 360 visualization tool as well.
And a further question, just to drill into that, when you say a 360 camera, is that stitched or unstitched?
That would be the ones we use at the moment. They're stitched.
Right, because just from a legal perspective, stitched cameras aren't typically allowed to provide evidence in a court of law. Okay. So that might be an issue for consideration. Okay, no, that's a good point. We use it primarily for construction sequencing, like when we're doing installing bridges and things like that, or different assets. It's purely internal reporting mechanism that we used them beforehand, but that's very well noted and something to look at as well. Okay, I think that's all of my questions. I'm happy to be muted. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a few questions also from Weimer1. If it can be unmuted, please.
Unmuted. John, hello.
How are you?
All right, thanks. Tony, it's actually Tony Wyman here. Nice to see you again. It's been a while.
Yeah, that's...
Yeah. John, obviously from my perspective, I mean, we've been involved in BIM for some time. A few of my questions are obviously around the fact that obviously we were quite heavily involved in GWET and the infrastructure that you're obviously demonstrating, I think, with some of your videos there. And it's kind of how you're going to utilize that information sort of going forward, or are you going to use that information going forward? I mean, is that going to form part of the backbone of the information that you're sort of looking to put together?
Yeah, yeah, it is. So part of the railway is that we have live projects and we have new projects coming up. So the model is there, and if a new project was to be initiated and where we have a 3D virtual model, then we do a validation exercise and upgrade that. So if track had changed, or if new equipment or new assets were installed, we do that. But part of it also is that we're very heavily for our early adopter projects to just get that engagement and buy-in from whether it's DFT or it's local councils or some of our stakeholders as well, sponsorship teams, is we're creating new models for that aspect, and that's forming part of that's adding to the regional model, I guess, and it's being used for early stages. But then once the agreement comes in and we have a live project, the accuracy is upgraded with different survey techniques. So we use it then for signal sight and clash detection, design reviews, and things like that. So I guess part of this project is the VR scope is how do we bring this information into the public? How do we do it virtually? The previous Alex LB previously, he mentioned how is there quicker and faster and more efficient way to build these models, and that's part of it as well. Because an aspiration for me over time, I don't know how long it's going to take, but we will end up having a model of some shape or form. We already have with the Royal surveys. Technically, they are virtual, and they are on a grid, and they have a certain accuracy in there as well. Even making that information available for someone who can go in and interrogate and check clearances, whether it's a safer place to work or it's not a safe place to work, and they can plan accordingly. That's all part and parcel as well.
Very good. Is this going to be directly linked though to the CP6 sort of solution, or are you looking at this outside of the CP6 project?
Well, we're in CP6 now. This will have a very quick startup once people are successful. So we will provide trial areas, and we will work in that agile way, and we'll identify fairly quick over a period of time whether we have a successful solution or not. That's so I can see it being used as a proof of concept maybe on a live project as well, and seeing how it operates on that.
Thank you very much, John. Appreciated.
Thanks.
Good to speak to you again.
Yeah, likewise.
Yeah.
Thank you. We also have a question from Michael King. If he can be unmuted, please.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Great. I had to plug in a microphone, sorry. So I think my question was answered in the chat really, just wondering about how, thinking back to when Network Rail's done TMS in the past, traffic management, there were 2 or 3 trials in different areas. So wondering if you were thinking that might be a possibility for this. Will there be 2 or 3 scenarios run out, or will it be one and various suppliers working together, or just your views on that really?
Martin, do you want to jump in on that as well? Martin Pett. Okay. When Martin's unmuting. Yeah, well, it depends it depends on what the feedback is, and we review what's there. Very open to collaborative working between people who bring different parts to the parcel, to the package. So yeah, if someone has, like, say, an ability to produce very quick models, and someone has the ability to work in the virtual world and how this is displayed, and someone else has different ways to do reporting and analysis, and someone specialized in drone technology and live feeds, for example, one company or one part of this mightn't be able to do everything, but it's about collaborative, and it's about getting the right people and working together if possible as well.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I missed the beginning of that question, but I think I've got the gist from your answer, John. I was busy answering on the chat. Yeah, absolutely. It's because the breadth of what the ambition here is so wide. It's impossible for one company to answer all of the challenges. But if we can ascertain from the information provided that actually, by combining forces, there's the opportunity to deliver the full suite, or 50, 70, 80% of the suite, and that's all good. And part of the role of Catapult is to highlight the opportunities between different businesses to collaborate to meet those challenges. So yeah.
Yeah, that's fine for me, guys.
Cool.
Okay, thank you. Next question is from Vin. If you can unmute Vin, please. The question was, do suppliers have to be on a particular framework in order to be part of the demos, etc.?
It's Michael King here again. I am a colleague of Vin's. I think he had to leave just a couple of minutes ago, so I don't think he'll be able to unmute. But if you can answer the question, I can pass it on to him. So yeah, are there any framework contracts, or we're an SME? So I think we're on some things, but obviously not like the big SIs on some of the others and all that sort of thing.
That's a Maria or Rob question, I guess.
Sorry, could you repeat the question? I missed that.
do suppliers have to be on a particular framework in order to be part of the demos, etc.?
No, definitely not. And that's one of the things we're trying to make sure we're as open as possible. That's why we've done an event like this today. We really want to hear from a wide breadth of suppliers, and our aim is to do quite an open competition as well.
Okay, thank you. Next question is from Ryan Young. It's how many people are involved in a review, and how many in the suite, and how many remote?
I guess that depends on the project size and the project that is there. So say, for example, on some of our signaling contracts that are out there, Paddington, some of the reviews have 25 people in there, and that's using a live review function, PDF markup, with automated actions and as part of that. So yeah, so it'd be the scope of the project, but it also depends on who the end user is. So if it's a stakeholder engagement, and it's it'd be people coming in, people from the community probably coming in to visualize what is going to be in the environment, and then you'd manage that accordingly depending on the size of the room. So if it's a project team, or it's people from our asset teams as well, it's who has VR headsets, who has access as well, and who wants depending on the participants. So I guess that as part of this will be exploring that and talking with our colleagues to and as part of the proof of concept is ascertaining, right, this is a certain enhancement project we're working on. The network rail project team could be 6, the supplier project team could be 15, 20, how sponsorship as well. So yeah, it depends on the proof of concept what we do, but we will factor that in. And I guess it won't be a grand haul of an immersive suite. It's how we integrate the technology and how we use the PC and the management who controls the model, and who can walk around and make decisions based on the information that's displayed.
If I could also add to that, John, we mentioned the visualization suite, which would be a physical installation, which will have multiple purposes for face-to-face group discussion, but also detailed in more detail in the brief, in the challenge statements, is that we would like to be able to enable people, stakeholders and our staff to participate in those design reviews remotely using virtual reality, mixed reality headsets and so on. So that allows people who are often very busy the ability to jump into those reviews, lead those reviews without having to travel to a specific location. So I'm not sure that came out explicitly, but I wanted to re-emphasize that. And part of the kind of the more stretched ambition is to, if there is ability to allow people actually on site to bring up that BIM data, overlay onto their environment as well, so they're enriched. On site, they can participate in purely CAD and VR based simulations, a full suite. But we appreciate that that's probably stretching a little bit, but interested to see who's done what in that space and what the art of the possible is.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next question's from Cy Brown. So are you looking to include AR as part of this?
Yeah, AR plays a big part because we have our existing infrastructure, and we have imagery, and we have different types of data sets that shows that. But I think a picture tells 1,000 words, and we've found in our experience, whether it's producing photo montages or of the proposed asset installation, it helps get that picture across. But if we have AR in that virtual world, you'll also be able to look at it from different aspects and things like that as well. So definitely VR and AR, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Stuart Kent would like to ask a question and be unmuted if possible, please.
Hello, my name's Stuart Kent. Thank you very much for your time today. One question I have, if an organisation has potentially solutions to the challenges, how does the project's aspirations as far as intellectual property Is there an expectation that a business's intellectual property would be shared on this project, or would that stay with the organisation?
That really, so it's Rob Ford here. That really depends on the proposition. I mean, at this stage, we just want to know what the state of the market is really, what cutting edge is, what's really established, and then John will look at that and work out what he's looking for to answer his needs. As we move forwards, if we're going to get into contract with someone, that will all come down to the negotiation around how much investment's required and that sort of stuff. Obviously, if it's kind of a product that's almost there and doesn't need a lot of investment from Network Rail to develop it up to a point, we'd have no right really to ask for IP. However, if there's a lot of investment needed from Network Rail, we'd have to have discussions around IP.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, there's another question from Terence Ferdinand. Are you looking for Fund 1 project to develop a single multi-user environment or several projects?
Well, basically, what we're looking at ways to make to benefit the railway and benefit Network Rail. So Wales and Western is an initiative, I guess, with our R&D team, is to try and develop this technology. But if it's scalable, it's scalable and it's developed and it has the benefits have been determined. That's all part of what we're about. So although we'll engage and we'll have a proof, we'll have a test area, and we'll work with whoever's part of this as a collaborative team. I guess if it's scalable and it becomes part of the business and how we operate as different regions operate, that's to be discovered, I guess. But we do work closely with our regional colleagues, and we have different forums, and we do talk basically every week, basically. So any the work that we're doing, we do share, and people get the extra benefit from that as well, and they can also be involved, or if they need to at a future stage, they have requirements that meet some of these requirements, that can be open to conversation as well.
John, I think I've interpreted that question slightly differently.
Oh, sorry.
Perhaps Terence could be unmuted, but I think this is about, as part of the next phase, once the information's gathered, could there be multiple solutions being tested in parallel, or would it be one single project with X number of partners?
That'd be Rob again for that one. I don't know the details behind that.
Yeah. So I think the question is, are we going to run one project with one technology or several projects with several technologies?
Yeah, I think that's the question, Angela. Sorry.
Okay. It really depends on what answers come in and whether there's several approaches that John thinks might meet his needs. So we haven't decided the exact route to market, what procurement method we're going to use. But if we use something around a design contest, we would look at probably progressing more than one solution if more than one solution met John's needs.
Okay.
And to add a bit of colour to that, it might be that the VR type headset approach might be one approach that John likes the look of, and it might be that a more kind of a cave approach, I can't think of the correct technical term, but a more where you don't actually have a headset, you're actually in an immersive environment, might be something. So there might be two options that John says, actually, I'm not sure, I'd like to progress both at this stage.
Yeah. Can I, sorry, can you hear me, by the way? So this is Terence Fernando. So I was asking, because when you're developing a system, you need to think about how do you manage data, how do you develop the services on top of the data, how do you make the presentation, whether it is through caves or touch tables or headsets or whatever. So you need to have this kind of system thinking. So my question is about really, would you like for us to develop a more system integrated platform where you can really bring data from different sources and feed that into different business processes through range of technology? So if that is the case, we are thinking of a much more of an integrated platform, or you could start thinking about series of different projects about how do you collect data from different sources like drones and aerial images and so on. So that could be one project, information management type of things. Second things could be about multi-user environment where, you know, people can support design reviews where once you got the data. So you could also think about range of projects as well. But however, at the end, in order to bring that into your product life cycle, then you have to somehow find a way of integrating those platforms at some stage. So I was trying to get a feel whether we should pitch for a much more integrated platform where we will provide a software infrastructure which could absorb this different sort of technology and apply into a series of processes, you know, business processes. So yeah, that's my question. I don't know whether I understood that. I explained it clearly.
Martin, how do you feel about that question?
Well, certainly something that can suck in data, both the CAD data and real-time data and LiDAR data and 360 video would be the backbone of this. And if its output would be display type agnostic, that would be ideal. I think it's really as a, oh, can you still hear me?
Yes, we can hear, but we lost
the audio, the visuals. But yeah, I mean, I think, you know, it's a system of systems challenge here, and a platform that would support as many of those requirements as possible, not be outputted onto one type of display. Ideas. By no means does the response have to be as specific. We would approach it in one way. It could be we approach it in this way or that way, depending on how. And here are the examples of what we've done in the past. And this is why, you know, we think we've got an upper hand or got experience in this space.
Yeah. Marty, how should we engage with the process? Should we just give you some ideas at this stage, or how does the process work? Sorry, I haven't really read.
It's all right. There's a template on the Proactives website, and sort of access through our opportunities page on the Connected Places Catapult website. So if that isn't self-explanatory, once you get to it, then please post questions and we'll support where needed.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Yes.
Okay, thank you. The next question comes from Mert Gunnell. Would it be possible to clarify your expectations on energy side in the aspects of energy management and energy efficiency based on data analytics?
Okay, so on that, so that's something that we're keen to look at, and Network Rail has been looking at energy efficiencies on different forums. So any opportunity to present on that or to propose on that would be very good. But as it wasn't mentioned on the challenge statement or the pin. So I guess if you have particular proposals in there which could be advantageous, that helps achieve that, it'd be good to see as well.
Okay, thank you. Next question from Barry Gleason. Do you want companies to offer a combined solution, or do you want to decide what to combine?
Well, that's up to the companies themselves and the proposal that's there. So if a company has the wherewithal to offer a combined solution, well, that's good, and if that's presented, that's fair enough. But there also, we've taken cognizance of SMEs and people who are very innovative in that field as well. So if there are some aspects that a SME can bring that would be advantageous, it's all part of that exploration process as well, and that's something we look at. And I guess some feedback would be, we've looked at reviewed some of the options, and if we can, like was mentioned earlier on, one team could bring, like Rob said, the VR aspect, someone could bring the immersive aspect. It all depends on how we look at it and how we just report back and say this is what our findings are and this is where we're going to go. But yeah, good question.
So can Barry be unmuted, because he's got a few questions just popping in there just as we was talking. Nick, could you unmute Barry?
Hi, hi John, hi everyone. Sorry, that question was probably worded incorrectly. Apologies, Hazel. What I meant to say, John, was that do you want companies to combine to offer you a combination of companies, i.e. as an offering, rather than, or would you rather each individual submit what they do and then you decide if you want to put people together? I mean,
Well,
that's a question to everybody, I suppose.
I guess I'll let Martin answer that as well. But from my point of view, whatever is the best solution that works is best for Network Rail. So if there are efficiencies in teaming up with other parties, and that's brought as a collaboration, that's welcomed as well. But Martin, do you have any comments on that?
No, I agree with what you said. You know, if people work together and they've got experience of delivering something that is similar to this, and that is great. You know, the next stages could well be a collaborative effort to submit, but can't really preempt that until we've got through this phase.
That's great. That answers my question. Thanks.
Thanks, Barry.
Okay, thank you. We've got a question from Victoria Marine de Castillo. If she could be unmuted to ask her question. She started to talk about if NR could make existing 3D NR scene or environment in VR. If Victoria can be unmuted. Okay, well, we'll wait to see if Victoria comes back online.
Hello.
Next question.
Hello.
Oh, hi. Okay.
Sorry, it's not actually Victoria. Victoria is my daughter that sometimes uses this computer. I apologize. My name is
Okay.
Basically, yes, I work in the university, and we already help SMEs to develop a lot of VR solutions, and we also help them to develop AI algorithms. I was wondering if National Rail could provide some sort of a scene of VR environment already, existing VR environment of any, I don't know, rail tracks or stations that then people like me working in universities, so that we don't have so many resources to develop our own a scene or environment, we could maybe test our existing tools and algorithms.
I guess that's kind of a mixed answer. So it all depends on the infrastructure, and it all depends on the university as well, I suppose. So if it's critical infrastructure, then it wouldn't be able to be feasible, because we have security policies in place regarding our assets. But we'd have to just probably investigate and just have a discussion about what the concept was. It's also about the information that we'll provide, if it was provided, or what's been developed, where does the IP come into that as well, and that's commercial conversations that I'm not. That's not in my world, but yeah, we just need to probably talk afterwards and see. But it as part of this challenge, people are working away and trying to are going to put proposals together, and I wouldn't like to have an unfair disadvantage to anyone if we give information to third parties. But we can have a conversation and just investigate a little bit more about what the university is, what they're doing, because we do work with different universities in the UK, and we are partnered up with some BIM solutions like BIM level 3 and things like that as well. So that's all I can say on that.
Yeah, I just want to add, I can't feel your pain, Hector. Getting hold of representative 3D models and environments is a challenge. And if you want to innovate with something that's as close to what's being used in industry, you need some representative examples. So perhaps that's something that the Catapult can have a think about and have a chat with Network Rail about afterwards as well. So that could be enabling for the academic side to develop some really innovative approaches to some of the challenges that we are beyond the scope of this. But yeah, understood.
Thank you. Next question is from Nick Kicknam. As for a pricing question, I guess we can just provide an estimate price range as number of users and usage, etc., are still not known. Can Nick be unmuted, please?
Thanks for the opportunity. So the question was just around, because there is a question that we need to answer when it comes to the RFI, and it's about pricing. But because it is still very early stages and we don't know how many users we are talking about or the usage or any impact on the size of the project. So I was a bit not sure about how we need to respond to that specific question. Is it just providing a range of possibilities, or is there any additional instructions in terms of how we need to approach it? Thank you.
Shall I take that one, John?
You go for it, yeah.
Yeah. So I think the as you said, it's a very challenging question to answer in terms of how would you price this. And I think what we're really looking for is examples of if you have any examples of similar projects you've done in terms of the number of users and the kind of pricing that is associated with that. What licensing model did you use or would you propose to use? So it's nothing hard and fast. If there is anything indicative as to how you would approach that and examples of prior work, fantastic. If you don't, then if you can articulate why you can't price it and what kind of options you might consider, would be a good way of doing it for X number of users. That would be useful. But we understand it's a very challenging thing to answer. So I don't know if that answers your question, but.
All right. Okay. Thanks for that.
Okay.
Okay. Next we've got Naomi. It's a question, John. Do you see a particular benefit of using immersive environments for remote inspections and virtual asset management in post-COVID-19 times?
Yeah, definitely. I think we work in a dangerous environment where we have high-speed trains going up and down our railway, and for our asset management teams, the advantage of having this system and setup would be, I guess, to know where our assets are, and there are programs, parallel programs happening that identifies assets. But how do we visualize that information, and how do we know what the assets are or what the attributes are? How do we know clearance distances? How do we know how to plan for possessions and get out on site? But also, as part of it, would be for an asset management point of view, would be the live drone feeds and site reporting feeds in the event that either we had work that was stopped or work that any accident investigation that was taking place, we could report back in from safe location as well, and how that feeds into the immersive environment. I think Naomi must be unmuted.
Hi, thank you very much for answering the question, and thanks for the great presentation as well. One follow-up question for this is, have you considered AI and machine learning at all for that as well to tie in with the immersive environment? Is that a key area as well? It is.
Well, it is. We're already working on some initiatives with Rob's team in AI from some of our data sources that was mentioned, but it'd be what impact it could have. So AI could build a model, I guess. AI could identify areas of concern. AI could tie it together and give some reporting analysis. So I guess if you were responding to the PIN, I'd put that in there, and if there's experience in the past on previous projects or even non-railway projects as well, and that could be identified. But it's all about innovation and accelerating our ways of working. And we are looking at AI across different parts of the business. If it can be incorporated into this and what the benefits are, yeah, definitely, it's definitely worth looking at.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next one is from Claire. Would you link VR tech with GPR tech for a better 360 view?
Yes, definitely. It'll form a data set. So if we have GPR data, and we have especially for tunnels environment. So we have an awful lot of tunnels in our region, and if we have the GPR data from them, and we have different information, it gives us an awful lot better functionality from the safe environment from the office, but also from virtual, like for our iPads on site and even our mobile phones, that if we can look along the tunnel and we know where the services are, or we know where any of the GPR scans are and any features that are in the background that we can't see visually, of course that's an awful lot more beneficial for what we need.
And furthermore, I believe there are some technologies that can use live feed from cameras to further enhance the accuracy of the position. So that would be of interest, because obviously there are places on the network which don't have particularly good line of sight. So anything that can be, any data that can be combined together to improve the accuracy for reporting and marking of issues would be also of interest.
Okay, thank you. Got a question from Steve. AI ML hasn't been mentioned anywhere, but is a key assisting technology for many aspects of the RFI scope. Was it left out explicitly? Could we oh, hang on, his microphone isn't working, so hopefully that's a detailed enough question.
Do you know that about that, Martin?
Yeah, it wasn't, AI and machine learning wasn't specifically discussed. I think that is a interesting aspect to, if there are people or technologies that can leverage AI and ML, then fantastic. But it's almost, I don't know, John, I feel like that's almost the next stage of, to get all the data into a format which is
exactly
primarily focused at leveraging the capabilities of humans to spot issues, identify, discuss, and then augmenting that further in perhaps a subsequent stage. But I don't know, John, if you're interested in knowing about what can be done now with that as well. But that's not officially part of the scope.
It's not part of the scope, but that's the part of agile working. So if someone had that technology and it did come to the fore, we would examine it and look at how it works. Because if it gives us benefits for what we're doing, of course it'd be silly not to. We'd have to see what the proposal is and identify it, and see how it would fit in and what the output would be. It was left out. I was left out not on purpose, but we have different AI initiatives and machine learning initiatives that are happening that use some of our base data. So it'd be a case of what would this particular project benefit be in with that technology, and that's something that should come back as part of the response to the PIN.
Thank you. Another question from Mark. He has expertise in some areas, but would seek to form a consortium with other parties to deliver against the overall scope. So can this be addressed, facilitated?
Yes, absolutely. This is about understanding what different businesses can offer, so that we can understand how those components and capability could be brought together. And I imagine, John, in the next phase there'll be an open call that would encourage collaboration if that met the needs of the project that will be defined in the near future.
Definitely, yeah. Without a doubt. It depends on your response, and if you have a wish to collaborate with other parties, if you make that clear in your response, it'll help us as well in doing the overview to see what different skill set it can come to try and achieve this.
Another question, Harry Atkinson. How much funding is available for this project in total? Has the money been earmarked, and will it be run in a similar fashion to Innovate UK or in conjunction with them?
To the Innovate UK question, no. We won't be running it like an Innovate UK contest. It won't be an SBRI, and it won't be a grant fund. It will be a delivery contract, effectively, to do something. In terms of funding's available, we've got funding available. The level of funding depends on the size of the business case that we'll work out throughout the project, and that's one of the key points of the RFI, to get some information to support the business case.
Okay, thank you. Next question is from James Dean. Can you walk us through the user journey? Example, user profile this way rather than, there's a question mark, not finished. Don't know whether James can be unmuted, please.
If it was being muted, there's different aspects that can be there. So basically, you can have one would be design review, and that would when, like, basically previously we had blueprints or different drawings or whatever, and using CAD technology and 3-dimensional, we'd have project engineers, project managers, even project delivery directors involved in making decisions on the project using the immersive technology. That's one. If you pedal back on that a little bit, trying to win work, we would have concerned residents, different stakeholders, local councils, if we're building new stations or we're expanding new stations, that'd be part of it as well. From a safety point of view, well, with virtual reality and simulation, we can keep people away from difficult and dangerous situations. So if they're planning works or they need to use the technology to try and find out where it's safe to work, or even access points and things like that, that can be in there. There's also can be explored is site familiarization, or site inductions. So you would have a particular work site, you have access points, you have a safe places of working as well, and you can plan your work environment in there. Stakeholder engagement is good as well. So, for example, Norwegian Rail, they adopted this technology for one of the projects they worked on, and they made it available one day each month, and that was in one of their offices, and they kept their different stakeholders on board as well. MTR on Crossrail, they're using this technology to train their staff to operate their stations. So basically using immersive reality to identify where stations are, different aspects of the station, where the turns, where the gate lines are, where access is, where the offices are, where the cameras are, things like that as well for their internal staff. So there's a whole variety of kind of storyboards in there that could be used. I think the main thing is that we get to a situation that we have the capability to have an immersive suite or immersive reality, and also the VR headset type as well, and that includes virtual and augmented reality. And from that story, from that position, the different storyboards and different stakeholders can be involved, and how it affects them in the business as well.
And from a user profile point of view, if you go into the annex, it will detail the user profiles and the functionality. Because if we're engaging members of the public, ideally then having nothing to put on and just be an observer is the right approach. And then you'll have people with more capability, more understanding of CAD that will have greater and greater functionality through to the technical lead, who would have a full suite of functionality and control. So if anybody, you can express how you would manage that interactivity, thinking about like the lowest common denominator and the fallback position being be able to navigate through this space on your laptop, and not that laptop not having to have a huge computational power would be fantastic. Through to the immersive headsets, and how they'd be managed, and thinking about the amount of time it would take for people to get familiar with it, trying to minimize that so there's less of a barrier to people adopting it and using it and getting on with it, through to the full capabilities. But yeah, I haven't yet seen any examples of the full capabilities of a CAD workstation being replicated in VR, and sometimes it's just not appropriate to do major editing inside a virtual space, inside a CAD model. But yeah, happy to see examples and your thoughts as to how you would approach that and how you would manage the type of users that that will be exposed to technology in different formats, and how you suggest configuring that. James doesn't be unmuted to answer, so that's okay, but I hope that's enough.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thanks. Another question from Tony Buck. How important to the solution is integration of VR headsets? We propose a more universal, accessible, web-based platform that can be easily accessed by anyone, anywhere in the world, and doesn't require expensive or inaccessible hardware.
Yeah, so I'll just start on that, and I guess Martin can go. So we've had major programs, and we had an awful lot of work happening where we use companies all over the world, whether it's Malaysia, Australia, Germany, Sweden, things like that, locations like that. So of course, yeah, VR is very important for people who are not based in a project office, but also as we are, and dynamic will change, and people will be working more at home. VR it needs to be looked at and needs to be utilized. But with the immersive suite, it'll be a case of we do have central offices, and we do have head office in our region, and it needs to be accessible to whether it's capital delivery from a project point of view, and that, but also with the drone live feeds, so our route asset managers can identify any issues that are there. So I think the scope is immersive reality and immersive viewing and a suite that does that in some shape or form, but also as equally is the virtual reality headset dimension as well, and how that operates. And if someone was to come and part of that is the interactivity as well, and how we operate. Do we operate with touch? Do we operate with handheld devices for VR? And as well as that, with the immersive suite, is that a touch-based system as well? But Martin can add to that as well if you want to.
Yeah, sure. So the a web-based solution would be great. I talked about the fallback being a laptop, so that people aren't excluded. They don't have headsets. There is WebXR is enabling a degree of virtual reality to be enabled through less powerful computers, and the price point of headsets is coming down. Their capabilities are increasing. So, as I mentioned, I think on one of the other questions, if the system that manages the data is output agnostic, that's the ideal approach. I wouldn't suggest excluding VR as something that for the solution, because with as mentioned, with COVID, with travel restrictions, with people and businesses starting to appreciate the cost saving that can be enabled through virtual meetings and digital reviews, the price of a headset is kind of not significant really. So yeah, I think it's an important part of it. Face to face will come back, hopefully sooner than later. But there are, as I mentioned, the stakeholders within Network Rail and outside Network Rail, and bringing them all together to make informed decisions quickly, I think is something that virtual reality enables, and they can enable at a very reasonable price. So.
Okay, thanks very much, guys, for your answers. I think what I was sort of alluding to as well is that virtual reality, the 360 environment can be delivered through the internet as well, and through a web browser, so you can explore the sort of 360 tour, but not necessarily have the requirement to be immersed in the headset. I do appreciate the advantages of that. It was just a sort of a clarification on that, so thanks for answering, guys.
I think we do have so where we are at the moment, we have CAD-based teams who do the walkthroughs of the model. But I think when it comes to the immersive environment and inspection, I've read some information about it, some documentation about it. It does make your response and the way you understand how something works an awful lot more. I don't know, an awful lot more better than looking at a PDF rendition of a plan, basically. or if you are walking through a model by someone else controlling it in a CAD environment, you'll always miss things. You don't have that kind of flexibility yourself that you can look yourself. So no, good question, but that's just a little bit of an add-on for me.
Okay, thank you. I've had a few questions in from Roger S. Again, around the VR. Can we unmute Roger, please?
Hi, thanks for that. Yeah, to be honest, the last comment from Martin seemed to cover that off. It was around, and how do you plan to meet your objectives for VR when you have, you know, the likes of public or various members of the supply chain who perhaps don't have access to headsets and who are trying to plan either works remotely or perhaps give comments to expansion plans from the comfort of their homes.
So, Roger, are you happy with the previous answer, or do you want to expand on that?
Yeah, relatively happy, but if there's anything else you want to expand on, by all means do.
No, not to be honest. I think, you know, for the fallback is to use your screen and still be able to participate in that review, but you'll have limited interactivity and won't necessarily be able to understand all the spatial components of that space as well as you would have had a headset. But the idea is not to exclude people, but to include them and, you know, have the ability to augment that basic desktop application with a headset to get a full suite of capabilities.
Okay, great.
Thanks. Got another question from Terence Ferdinand. Should we take NR's geo-RINIM system into consideration when we are pitching to this opportunity, or are you thinking of developing a complete different system from this initiative?
Okay. Yeah. So geo-RINIM, it's not externally facing, so it won't be part of the initiative. But we're not. It's not. I guess we will provide some open source information from geo-RINIM to complement this. But that's what we do anyway as part of what we do. So to build a model, we would look at geo-RINIM. We'd order maps. We'd order area lidar and point clouds and stuff like that. So we can provide the information as part of it. But when it comes to a different system, geo-RINIM is a 2D GIS system that the interactivity is pan and zoom. Click on and to activate metadata, which gives access to different information. So this is an immersive virtual solution with augmented and virtual reality, and geo-RINIM doesn't do that at all.
Okay, thank you. There's another two of the same questions, one from Mark and another Jonathan Owen. The closing date, yes, is the 6th of July. The additional question from Mark, are there internal deadlines, milestones that Network Rail are working towards that drives the 6th of July submission? Which is no, that's just our project timeline drives that date of the 6th of July. We've got another question from Ewan Morris. Is there view from Network Rail to take on this developing long term? Would there be a handover process and requirements pass on tech knowledge and IP?
I'll start that, I guess, and then probably Rob would be on that as well. So everything that we're doing is to look at long term, but we need to prove it and get a business case together. And part of this is to see what's on the market and see what can be developed. And in our region, I think we like to be kind of up there with the trend, and we like to bring in new technologies because we are fairly advanced with BIM. So yeah, as part of the commercial, I won't answer anything about the IP or anything like that, and about handover. I'll leave that with Rob because that's a different world than me.
Okay.
I think actually it goes back to your previous question about the way the process is and contracts and the design led and things like that, and all that will come out as part and parcel of what we're working on.
Oh, we've got a question from Terence again. He would like to ask a question if he can be unmuted, please.
Hi, John. Hi. Could I ask about the GeoRenim actually? As you know, Network Rail has been pushing GeoRenim for many years to really create this kind of a integrated, centralized asset management system where you can feed into different processes. So are we supposed to use GeoRenim, or at least have some sort of connection to GeoRenim, or are you trying to replace that GeoRenim altogether to create a much more modern systems?
Okay, so this is going to be separate to GeoRenim. GeoRenim is like the future geospatial platform for all Network Rail's asset information. But what we would do is we would make some information available to that. It's not externally facing at the moment, so it won't be possible to tie into GeoRenim. But what we would look at, we look at the different data outputs that comes from that, so the different baseline information and how that can be fed in, and that gives us that hybrid model. So basically, if they have buried services, utilities, if they have different types of asset information built in there, how can we feed this into the overarching immersive experience? I guess on the journey for this as well, we would talk to the people who manage GeoRenim and who heads up asset information services, and they know we're working on this. So we try and there'd be an awareness of how this could tie in and how it could be utilized, but we're not at that stage yet. This is just early days, I guess.
Yeah, thank you, John. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Looks like it's the last question as well from Joseph. When do you expect the pilots to start?
I guess I'll probably Martin into this as well, but so we have to get replies to the pins. I guess people are going to send in, because of the time frame that we have with so many applicants and attendees on the meeting, we couldn't do the pitch. So I guess we'll get all the submissions in, we'll have a review. We need to look at the different considerations about collaboration, and if people identify they want to collaborate with other people, take that into consideration. In the meantime, we'll make available so a test area and test data to do that as well. So I can't really speak about when the pilots start. I'll leave that up to probably the Catapult team or the R&D team about that.
Okay, thank you. It doesn't look like there's any more questions coming in now.
Okay, thanks, Hazel. So maybe if there's no more questions, I'll make a few comments just at the end, just to kind of reinforce and reiterate some of the questions that have come up. So I guess there's been quite a few questions coming up around sort of what's the purpose of this whole challenge statement process, and I guess to kind of clarify, this is really to understand what is the state of art in terms of technology. What's the art of the possible in innovation and innovative technologies to address the need that has been identified. So I guess the whole intention is to leave it as open as possible for people to invite solutions to how they can address this need.
And if I can just build on that, Stuart, Network Rail, as a Network Rail, we often get criticised for selecting a technology or a solution, then going to market and being very narrow with that. What we're trying to do here is make sure we're best informed when we do go out for the formal competition, hopefully later on in the year, and we make sure we leave it as open as we can without leaving it, to make sure we get the breadth of response, but not leave it totally wide open.
Secondly, on the kind of submission processes, I guess there's been a kind of few questions around sort of level of details needed in the submission, and I suppose also the time frame. So there's a question a few moments ago around, is the deadline the 6th of July? Yes, it is, and in some ways that seems quite a tight deadline, but I suppose the whole purpose of this whole innovation factory sort of activity is to accelerate innovation. So I suppose the intention is to try and identify and move at a reasonable pace with technologies to bring solutions as quickly as possible. So it is in some ways quite a tight time frame, but equally we're not looking for a fully detailed proposal and fully costed proposal. It's just sort of an indication of how you think you might address the challenge, what sort of technology solutions you think you might be able to bring. I mean, a few questions around the costing. As we've sort of said, this is just an indication only at the minute. There's no sort of expectation really that people will put in fully detailed costed proposals, and certainly nobody will be held to whatever indicative cost they put in the proposal. It's just, so it's a part of the gathering as much information we can about what the potential technology is, and whatever information can be provided around cost is useful, but not, like I say, not essential. In terms of the process, there've been a few questions around, what are the next steps to this activity? And again, as we've kind of hopefully conveyed, there's no formal rigid process as to what happens next. This is around trying to identify what is the art of the possible, what potential technologies might be out there to address the need. And it might be that there's no one single solution that fits, exactly the needs that have been identified, and there's maybe, multiple projects that can be run in parallel to try and push forward technologies to address the need. So again, nothing is set in stone really as to what the next step looks like. Maybe the final comment for me really is, if obviously we've run through quite a lot of questions in this session, which hopefully has been useful to all of you. If after this you do kind of have further questions, there is still the opportunity to put questions to us through the Proactive website. I think, yeah, you should all have found that, which is where the challenge statement is hosted. There is a mechanism there to put questions which will find their way to us, and then we can respond to you via that process as well. So I think, hopefully this session will have answered a lot of the questions and clarified any questions you had around what it is we're looking for, or what the process needs to be. Have there been, Hayes, I'm just looking, the chat now says 18. Have there been a couple of other questions in the last few minutes?
Yeah, there's just a new one that's come in. Would you be interested in a standalone application that extracts data from BIM and provide advanced analytics of that data through an access to a web application which is not part of BIM software?
I guess that's for Martin or John to answer.
Yeah, I guess if you just write it down in response to the PIN, it'd be very useful to get a better understanding. But when it comes to analytics through a web application is not part of BIM software. Yeah, it's just a better understanding about what that is, and what the software is, and if it just a description of how it works. But like, there's no closed doors on this. It's what innovation people can bring that'll help us to ascertain what's out there and how it can be utilized.
Okay. Yeah, a few more coming in now. Is there a preference for NR to have an IP-owned solution rather than an existing product that is being sold to other customers?
And that's all part of the process and how it operates, and that's I guess when it gets into contract and what is presentable and how it works, that will come into it as well. And if it involves an NR solution that will come out, and in our own solution that will come out of it as well in partnership, or if it's not, we'll make that determination. And we have worked on different partners previously in those fields, so it'll be part of the process. Is probably the best answer.
Okay, thank you. I think that's it now. So a few thank yous, and yeah, a link for the further questions. We can share the web page.
I guess we can probably email that, unless anyone's got that quickly to hand. We can probably email that out to all participants afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to post it now onto the comments section. But yeah, if you go to the Connected Places Catapult website and the opportunities section, which I think is going to work with us, within that there should be a link at the bottom which takes you through to Proactis website. I'm just double checking. Yeah. I'll post that now.